Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Realtree, Hoyt Archery, Fuse Accessories, Muddy Outdoors, Cabela's, Trophy Rock, Scott Archery, Frigid Forage, Rocket Broadheads, Easton Arrows, Redneck Hunting Blinds, Non-Typical Wildlife Solutions, Ozonics, Wilderness Athlete, Grizzly Coolers, RTP Outdoors, and Nikon.
Welcome back to another episode of Midwest Whitetail, the Great Plains. As you can see this morning, I just got off work. It's getting to be that time of year. It's late season. We've used up all our vacation to hunt during the mid-November there, so it's back to work. But this morning Derek came over, and we're already thinking about some of our strategies we want to use for next year. And one of them that we're going to take advantage of is this soft shell blinds that you can bow hunt out of from Redneck. Great price point. We got a couple of them, as you can see here. Definitely going to be pretty cool to be getting the strategy down, where we're going to put these blinds. We'll talk about that next year, but we're already thinking about next year, even though Derek still has a tag.
Yeah, there's a few weekends left here in the season. We go to the end of the year, so I'm going to be checking my cameras, seeing if I got a mature buck using some food sources, and hopefully trying to get out with a brand new baby here. You know, all my time's limited, but we're going to give it a shot. So, but on today's episode, we're going to join Justin Byers as he gets on a public land buck out in Montana using some unorthodox methods. And then we're also going to join Justin as he shows us the gutless way to quarter out a deer on those backcountry bow hunts.
That sure happened fast. That fast. I guess I can do my interview now. November 11th. I think this is the first time I've sat in a tree all year. I'm doing something completely unorthodox. I'm hunting a river bottom on public land, and I came down here late last night. Got in this morning a little bit late, and a buddy of mine, I called him, he said the bucks are rutting, it's time to come down. I was thinking of trying another spot. I'm glad I didn't. I know that's not a huge buck, but man, public land. I came in here this morning, I got in a little bit late, it was foggy as all get out, and as I was getting set up, I could see a buck across the fence line, across the property line, grunting, and I think it might be the one I shot. And I thought, man, hopefully he comes back through when I'm set up. Sure enough, he did. So, man, you gotta love November. First sit of the year. Oh, I love it, man. I've had a great year. Got a nice bull in my bow, antelope, not my buck. Still got another buck tag. Oh, man. You gotta love hunting. You gotta love hunting.
As you can see, I'm down now. I decided to sit for a little while longer. I could see blood from the stand all in the grass, and I'm sure he's dead just over there, so we're going to take a look. That is what a guy is looking to see on the end of an arrow. It's just pouring out of him. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. That's just a good, solid public land buck. Like I said, I got to thinking about it. This actually wasn't my first sit, it was my second sit. I sat one time in October at a new place and really wasn't encouraged by that spot, so I decided to come to this public land spot here and give it a whirl, and I'm glad I did. That was awesome. It's just sometimes it isn't the size of the antlers that makes a hunt, it's the experience, the whole experience, and I'd say this is a 10 out of 10. I'm very happy with this buck, and I do have my regular general A tag still to fill, so I'm definitely gonna start being a little picky, but I was super happy to come down and kill this buck this morning. It was a great hunt. Something that I've learned since moving out here years ago and hunting in the West is that if you can learn to skin and debone an animal, a lot of guys call it the gutless method, it'll make it a lot easier to pack out. Unless you have access to a quiet cat or an ATV or side-by-side or something like that, if you have to do a long drag, this is definitely the way to go. Now, I did drag this deer away from my hunting spot because I really don't want coyotes and predators and stuff in there eating on the gut pile and possibly spooking the deer in the area that I'm hunting. So I did get them out of that area, but I'm going to skin this deer, debone all the meat. I'm not even going to quarter it. I'm actually going to debone it. I have an internal frame pack, which is something you really need to have if you're going to do this, and then I have garbage bags, and as I'm skinning out this deer and deboning the meat, I'm just putting it right into the garbage bags so it's clean and it's going to keep my pack from getting all bloody. The beautiful thing about this is a lot of guys get into the backcountry or get in somewhere deep, even in the Midwest to some of those big national forests, and they don't want to shoot a deer or especially a doe back there because they're really worried about the drag. If you do it this way, you might come, even if you have 50, 60 pounds of meat, that's not that hard to carry in these nice internal frame style packs. So it makes it so that you can go deeper, you can go farther, and not have to worry about all the aggravation of trying to get the animal out of there. The other added bonus is when you do finally get it out of the woods, like for me, because I'm away from home, I'm going to put it in a cooler on ice and just keep replenishing the ice and draining the cooler as it melts. But the beautiful thing is, even if you're close to home, when you get home, I personally do all my own processing, and if you're like me, all you have to do when you get home now is trim and package. You don't have to hang, you don't have to skin, you don't have to quarter and debone. It's already done, and the nice thing is the mess all stays in the woods, and your wife isn't going to get mad at you like mine used to. So I'm not going to go through point by point on this gutless method. There's a lot of videos out there. If you do a Google, YouTube search, you're going to find tons of guys that'll show you how to do this. I do it pretty frequently on elk. And it's pretty simple to do. You basically just start at the back of the neck, cut a line down to the rump, skin one side, start pulling off the muscles, put it in your bag, flip it over, same thing. And the other thing I'll tell you is when a deer's freshly killed, it's a lot easier to do because those muscle separations are a lot easier to get your hands into. So I'm gonna go ahead and start deboning this, and when I'm done, the meat's all gonna be in my pack. And if you're trying to be kind of sneaky, especially in public land like this, it's nice because you can pack all the meat out, pack your deer out, and get back to the truck, and no one around that's in the parking lot even knows that you got anything. So it's kind of nice for that aspect too. Another thing I want to just briefly mention is my shot placement. I kind of talked about it in my stand before I got down. As you can see, I obviously frontaled this deer. It came out about here on the other side. That deer died, I think he ran like 60 yards and tipped over. He was dead 60 yards from the stand, and I heard him expire maybe 5-10 seconds after the shot. So it is a very lethal shot, and after I get all the meat in my pack and deboned, I'll do a quick forensic analysis and you can see the lethality of that frontal shot if it's done correctly. So I got the other side of this buck deboned, his front shoulder, his hind quarter, and his back strap. Got it all deboned, put it in my garbage bag, flipped him over, and now I've got this mostly skinned, but I flapped it back over because I kind of want to do, as I said earlier, a little bit of a forensic analysis to show you exactly what you're looking for in the anatomy of a deer if you ever decide to take that frontal shot. And as I said, you can see this morning it was extremely lethal. The buck ran like 60 yards. So the nice thing about that frontal is if you do it right, you're basically catching heart, lungs, all the major
arteries and veins that come down in here, and it's just one of the most, in my opinion, it's probably the most lethal shot you can take if it's done properly and you have the right opportunity. So that being said, let's pull this back and take a quick peek at exactly what we got going on. Obviously you don't want to hit that elbow, that shoulder. This is kind of leaning forward because of the angle the deer's laying at, but you can see all this damage right here, the hole right there, and I got right in between the two shoulders, right in between the brisket bone, the sternum, and right up in these shoulders there's a hole about yay big, about the size of a baseball or a softball, and if you get into that deer is not going far, whether it's a deer, elk, antelope, whatever. So like I said, as I go, I'll continue to show you what we got going on, and then when I get this animal all skinned out and deboned, I will then pull out the saw, probably gut them, and I can show you exactly what was hit and how lethal that shot is and what organs you're actually aiming for. Here's that hole I was talking about, and actually the spine is right here, and so you have this hole about that big on this buck, and if you hit any of this, you got the jugular there, everything, he's in big trouble. Now from what I can see here, I thought I hit that hole, but what it was it actually slid behind that shoulder blade and hit right here in the ribs, which is also fine. As long as you're between those shoulder blades, you should have no problem, and obviously above the sternum. But it looked like it went right through here and it just drilled them in the lungs, and like I said, I'm gonna open them up and we'll get a better look. But I don't know how you can argue with that. I mean, that's deer anatomy 101. You get in between those shoulder blades and above that sternum, you're probably gonna have a dead deer. So as you can see now, I pulled apart the ribs. You can actually see this angle I'm talking about. Here's that front center hole in the chest, and here's obviously the lungs and the heart. And as you can tell, this buck's lungs were absolutely destroyed upon entry with this broadhead. All this coagulated blood, and like I said, just an extremely lethal shot. You're bound to hit either lungs or heart, and any way you slice it, no pun intended, it's gonna probably, a lot of times, especially if you're on the ground, if you're doing a ground blind type hunt, you're probably gonna get a lot more than just the lungs and the heart. You're probably gonna catch liver and guts and a whole lot of other stuff. So there's the lungs, and you can see actually I took out his heart, it looks like, and the front of his lungs. So again, that's why it's such a lethal shot. You're catching so much. Yeah, it looks like it took out the lungs, the heart, just the whole blood pumping system on entry. So hopefully these are some hopefully this is a good tip for you if you ever find yourself in this situation. Obviously I really want to stress, if you're not confident, don't take the shot, but if you are confident like I was this morning, as you can clearly see here, it's a very lethal shot.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of Midwest Whitetail, the Great Plains Show. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. And be sure to come back next Sunday right here on Midwest Whitetail, the Great Plains Show.